Welcome back, guys. Today's video is inspired by the Rad Pack. They issued a challenge last month of the top 9 films from 1994. And I've been seeing many people take this challenge. And so today, me, along with my good buddy Matthew from TheGeeksAttic, you remember him from the first episode of Project Monster Island. There's going to be another episode coming soon. Very excited about that. But Matthew, how you doing today?
I am doing outstanding. I'm glad to be here to do this list. I'm ready for it.
Me too. I've had this list for a while, and I would be lying if I said that I didn't change it from time to time because there's this the further along I kept looking at all the films from 1994, the more I kept changing. Like, oh man, because that was a good one. That was a good one. But I got it narrowed down. So we're each gonna take turns. I'm gonna do one. He's gonna do one. And we're just gonna work our way up. My list is not in any particular order from least to greatest or anything like that. It's just I'm just gonna go ahead and just start off my list, and maybe near the end we might give some honorable mentions. So, Matthew, you ready?
I am ready. Let's get into this. Is a tough list.
All right. So, in 1994 was a good year for Jim Carrey. So, I'm going to start off my list with Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. You remember that one?
Oh yeah, I do. I remember seeing that a few times.
Yeah, I actually just watched it recently. Me and my wife just sat down and watched the Ace Ventura movies. And I have to say, I don't know what it is, but whenever we sat down to watch it, and it just felt like a breath of fresh air because it was just, I don't know why, but it was just, I found it more hilarious than I did when I watched it, a while back. I guess it was just because it's just great, relaxed, turn your brain off type humor and just watch Jim Carrey do his thing?
Yeah, and of course you understand a lot more of it when you get older too, because that movie came out we were just kids, so that the humor changes over time when you kind of grow into it. So one of my favorite parts of that movie is the end when he has his mouth is full of the bubble gum.
Oh,
I,
yeah.
I just thought that was so funny.
Yeah, I rewatched some clips from that recently, of him solving that little case in that apartment complex about whether it was a murder or a suicide, and it's just I don't know, it's just watching him, deliver his lines or do his quirky antics and everything, or
Yeah,
of course my favorite, whenever he's pretending to be that postal or that UPS delivery. He's just like slamming the box, playing soccer with it, getting it stuck in an elevator, and just. And then
yeah.
he delivers it to the guy. He's just like, the guy's like, it sounds broken. He's like, most likely, sir. I bet it was something nice. It's fresh humor. It's just it doesn't have to be too raunchy, which the film does get pretty raunchy. You know, pretty tame compared to today's standards, but it's just it was just some nice fresh humor, and it was great to revisit it.
Yeah. Yeah, see, it's been a long time since I've seen some of these movies from 1994, so I have little bits and pieces in my mind for my pick for number 9 because I'm doing mine in order from, like, bad to bad to good, but none of them are bad. So,
Right.
uh, I put True Lies. There
Hmm.
was an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. I remember
Mm-hmm.
that's the one where he's, like, undercover, right? No, not undercover, but, he's like a secret agent, and he has to trick his family, right?
That
It's been
sounds
it's been a
familiar.
long
Yeah.
time since I've
Yeah.
seen that, so that's the only thing I remember. He had the hover jet, which was awesome. I remember that scene.
Right.
So, and sometimes I get that one mixed up with Eraser in for some reason, so kind of probably similar, but that was my number 9 pick. This
Nice.
was just
Yeah.
action, and it was
Yeah.
rad.
The. Yep. Definitely rad. Yeah. It was the late '80s, early '90s was definitely a good time for Arnold Schwarzenegger, with like the Terminator movies and like just all the other
Yeah.
action movies to start. I remember watching one. I cannot remember the name of it, but I think he played an FBI agent. I remember watching one of those recently, and we've been revisiting some of the Terminator movies. Especially for paper movies, we reviewed the first two Terminator novelizations. So coming up next for me, is a Jim Carrey film that everybody has probably seen. And this is one of those films that when I've talked to people, like they either really, really love it or they really, really hate it. And it's both for the same reason. It's because it's dumb and dumber.
Okay.
I
Alright.
I I love Dumb and Dumber. It's it's like one of the most quotable movies I've ever seen, and it's just, me and my brother still quote it to this day. It's just the jokes are still funny. Like
Yeah.
it's a simple concept. Two guys try to deliver a briefcase full of ransom money. And, they travel all the way across the country to, Aspen, California. No, it's Colorado. But to deliver this money, and they just get into all this shenanigans along the way. It's
Yeah,
hilarious.
it's a buddy adventure film with just two idiots that they're just running into trouble. It's a great
And
movie.
yeah, and some of the jokes are just dark and bad, like giving the dead parakeet to the blind kid.
I
It's
took care of it.
I took care of it.
He duct taped the head back on. It's such a funny, "I got worms." It's like, "That's what we're gonna call it."
Yeah, there
Worm
was
farm.
yeah, it was actually cool to I actually got to go to the hotel where they filmed most of that movie at the Stanley Hotel. It was named something else in the movie, but I was in me and my wife. There's the scene where he meets Mary Swanson, and then he says, "Race you up the steps." I did that,
That's
and of course
that's funny.
the bar scene where
"It landed on
he's
the moon."
yep, I made that exact video, and I sent it to my brother, and no, I love it. It's just
Yeah,
it's
it's
just
a it never gets old.
it never gets old, and it just gets funnier each time I watch it.
So, for me, like, doing this, like, how I'm doing my favorite to or least favorite to favorite, we're running into some issues here 'cause, number 8 for me is Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. So, that's where it landed on my list, was number 8 out of the 9. So, if you would like, I could go ahead and just give you my number 7.
Go right ahead, man.
I put down Legends of the Fall. Thought
Legends
that
of the
was a
Fall.
good
Okay.
film. Yeah, and the soundtrack may be even better than the film.
I don't think I've seen that one yet.
It was a good one. It's pretty, from what I remember, it was pretty long, but
Remind
definitely
me
worth
who's
your
in it
time.
again.
Brad Pitt is in it.
Okay.
And I'm horrible with remembering names. Uh, Popular dude, Hannibal Lecter. What's his name?
Oh, Anthony Hopkins.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I
So
haven't seen that one, but that's what I also like doing this list is like, hey, it gives me more ideas for movies to watch and
yeah,
catch up on from, that came out during our generation. So
yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and jump into my number 7. And again, this is it's a Jim Carrey film. It's my last Jim Carrey film. And I picked this one up for number 7 above the other Jim Carrey films for a reason. But this one, and again, we covered this on Paper Movies recently, The Mask. I was probably, it was like a few years back when I realized that that was based off an actual comic. And I love comic book films, but
Yeah.
I didn't know for the longest time that it was based off a Dark Horse comic. And it was probably like, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago whenever I rewatched it that I saw that it was based off a Dark Horse comic, and the Dark Horse comic is actually pretty, brutal. And what I like about this film, what I think makes it pretty unique among the other Jim Carrey films, is that it's a better range for Jim Carrey's acting because he has to go from portraying, you know, a shy, you know, bank clerk who gets, pushed around and walked on and, taken for granted to a wacky,
Wacky, crazy person.
super, yeah, super powered, being with a green mask and everything. And I think it's a good demonstration of his, of his range.
Yeah, it was. Truly was. Yeah, reading that novelization about a year ago, year or
Hmm.
2 years ago, it was a different experience reading the
Yeah.
book, so which is cool that some of these books or some of these movies that we're talking about do have novelizations, but I'm kinda surprised to see how many of them don't.
And on that note, I was surprised to see some of these films that did have novelizations, and there was some that I would never expect to have novelizations did, if that makes sense.
Right,
But yeah, so The Mask comes in at number 7 for me, and it's not the I'll admit it's not the funniest of Jim Carrey's films, and compared to the other Jim Carrey films, I don't think it's aged the best. It's still fun to
right.
watch, but it had a good soundtrack, a lot of nostalgia, and it made me curious to want to check out the comic book. But again, when I first saw it, and after the few times that I've seen it, I thought it was just like an original superhero film. I didn't know that it was
Right.
based off a comic,
Yeah.
but I do want to read the comic now. From what I've read about it, it's pretty brutal.
For me, I've put at number 6, Maverick. It's a
Maverick.
fun yep, fun Western comedy, Mel Gibson.
Hmm.
I thought it was great. It had, the good old '90s country music as the soundtrack. So, I thought that was a good one. I remember seeing that when in theaters. I believe I saw it in a drive-in theater as well. So with The Mask, I remember seeing that one in a drive-in theater. Um, but yeah, I gotta go with Maverick. Good funny
Yeah,
movie.
yeah. I think I remember seeing quite a bit of that a long time ago. Like I'm pretty sure I saw the whole thing, but it's been a while. But
Yeah,
um,
basically a gambling type Western movie.
hmm yeah, it's that was a good one. Coming in at number 6 for me is, well, this is based off a popular horror film series, and again, it's one that we've discussed on Paper Movies. Matthew probably knows which one I'm going with this, but it's one of the Nightmare on Elm Street films. It is Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Now, this is not technically a Freddy Krueger film. Yes, it does have Freddy Krueger in it, but it's different. Instead of it being Freddy Krueger, it's supposed to take place in reality. And it's supposed to be about a demon who uses Freddy Krueger as his form, if that makes sense. And me and my wife have watched it several times, for Halloween. And again, it's not, the greatest Freddy Krueger film. It's fun, but from all the films that came out in 1994, I enjoy it, and I'll go ahead and say that for most of this list, like I'll admit that some of these films like aren't the greatest, but they're ones that I really did enjoy that came from this time period. So, uh, have you seen New Nightmare? I'm sure you had. You have the novelization
That's
to it, don't you?
right. That's the one that it's basically like they're making the movie, right? And it comes to like sort of real meta type film,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. In a way,
Kind of like
it's
building up to when he did Scream, like he puts in like the horror elements of like, oh, Freddy Krueger is a legend, so all of a sudden it's real.
Yeah,
Does
like
that make
it's supposed to be like Freddy Krueger coming into reality, and
okay? Yeah,
but it's not Freddy Krueger. It's
right.
it's a demon taking his form. Again, it was fun, but I would definitely stick with the classic 80s Nightmare on Elm Street films. So what do you got for number 5?
For number 5, my wife will kill me if she finds out that I didn't say this was number 1. It's her favorite film, and that's The Lion King. So,
Oh.
yeah, yeah.
um, well,
From what I remember, like, it was originally done by, like, the B team, right?
mhm.
Is that true? It wasn't the A-list writers or, artists, it was just, like, the secondary team? Is that do you know anything about that?
I don't. I know that when it came to like Disney movies back then, like I'm not too. I know being a musician, I know who wrote the music, and it was like Alan Menken. He wrote some of the music back then for some of the films, like Aladdin. But I know that he didn't write the music for The Lion King. It was Hans Zimmer and
Hans
Elton
Zimmer.
John. But no, Lion King's a Lion King's a great one.
Yeah.
It's probably one of Disney's most successful films, and it's a great story,
Yeah.
and and I still enjoy watching it to this day. I remember, uh, well, spoiler alert. I'll get into a little bit more about my thoughts because it is on my list too. So, but no, definitely Lion King's a great one.
Yeah, I had a Sega Game Gear. You remember those handheld game systems?
Oh yeah, this yeah yeah
Yeah, I had the Lion King for that system. It was
yeah
fun.
and I think they're bringing back some of those games, those old Super Nintendo or Sega Disney games, and like for
Yeah.
modern consoles and everything. So number five for me, as most of y'all know, I'm a Universal Studios Monsters fan, and this is not a Universal Studios Monsters film, but it does feature one of their classic characters in Frankenstein's monster. This is Mary Shelley's Frankenstein that starred Kenneth Branagh as Victor Frankenstein and Robert De Niro as the monster. And it's not as good as Bram Stoker's Dracula, but I enjoyed it. I enjoy these movies. Frankenstein itself is a great novel.
Yeah.
I loved reading Frankenstein, and I thought it followed the novel fairly well. It's been a while since I've seen it. I do remember really enjoying it. When I saw that it was made in 1994, I had to add it, because I love the Universal monsters. And again, not a Universal Studios monsters film technically, but it is, one of the characters that inspired those movies. So,
Yeah, that was a good one. I remember seeing that for the first time, um, on TV. So,
hmm
commercial breaks and everything, and I remember that it was a very creepy film, and I always forgot like, I never for some reason, back when I saw it, it wasn't in my mind that, "Oh, yeah, that is Frankenstein." So, I don't know what I was thinking when I watched it, but I remember thinking, "Oh, man, this is creepy, and I love it." And it took years until I discovered it again, and, yeah, it's such a great movie.
yeah, again, I like how they stayed for the most part pretty faithful to the book. And I know that they added the classic line, "It's alive." Kenneth Branagh said that. I don't remember him saying that in the novel. I think that was just kind of like an Easter egg to the classic '30s film. But I thought it was pretty well done. And Robert De Niro, like when I first saw this, and I mostly I couldn't see Robert De Niro playing the monster, and but he actually did very well. Like I didn't actually see this back in 1994. I was like older,
Yeah.
but I saw that he played the monster, and so I gave it a chance, and I thought he did pretty well.
So, for my number 4, I put up Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump, that's always a classic.
Yep.
Always a classic.
Yeah,
That's
it's quotable. It's got some cool special effects in there that look real. They still hold up, at least the last time I saw it. So, the acting in it was great. The soundtrack was awesome. It's a
hmm
cool, like, travel through time. Bubba Gump, it's a restaurant that I don't eat at, but, I do love their hats. The Bubba Gump hat, I've had those over the years. It's a great film. Great merchandise too.
Yeah, I've been to a Bubba Gump restaurant, and I want to say it was Galveston a few years
Yeah,
back. But yeah, Forrest Gump, great movie, great movie. Um, I remember watching this quite a bit with my grandparents, like my dad, and we like Tom Hanks. He's a good
yeah,
actor. We always
yeah,
enjoy his films, and we always quote it. It's just how he delivers those lines is just hilarious. But he delivers these lines with like some comical innocence,
mhm,
and
yeah,
it's a great film. And again, gonna get into little bit more on this later because spoiler, it's on my list. But my number four, we just talked about it, The Lion King. The music is great. The songs are very catchy. Hans Zimmer's score is actually pretty good. I like the stampedes, the music for the
mhm,
stampede scene, and I remember when I first saw it in theaters. My granny took me and my older brother to go see it, and I just remember her dying laughing whenever Scar swallows Zazu, And then like when Mufasa comes in and just says, "Spit him out" or "Drop him," he just goes, "Poof." He's like, "Impeccable timing, Your Majesty." But no,
That's
it's
good.
a great film. The cast did really good, and Matthew Broderick was in it. He played adult Simba. Um, he did not sing it though, which is surprising because
Really?
he's a
He's big
broad
on musicals.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's a Broadway singer, but he did not sing it. And but I mean, I shouldn't be too surprised. Disney did that. I think the voice of Aladdin, the act there was like an actor and a singer for that role. So, but no, Lion King's good. Good story, um, good performances, and yeah, number 4 on my
Okay.
list.
Well, for me, number 3, I picked The River Wild. I remember that
Hmm.
being an excellent film that was creepy. It was, another, like, adventure type film, but, you get this family floating down the river, and then these, I think there were 2 or 3, bad guys, outlaws, kind of force their way into the little family vacation and make things really hard and difficult for them. So, I remember that one being terrifying and, very good and full of action, and I think those stunts that they did were actually, like, I think the actors really did sit in the boats for that too. I could be completely wrong with these movie facts, but I remember seeing a behind the scenes thing with that, like, wires and stuff were all hooked up to the boats, but very, very good movie.
Cool. Again, that's one I haven't actually seen. Um,
Okay. You gotta
but
check that one out.
yeah, it sounds good from what you were describing. So the River Wild, no,
Yeah,
I'll definitely check that out.
Kevin Bacon's in that one.
Oh, okay. Well then, yeah, I like
Yeah,
Kevin Bacon, so
yeah.
and then I'll watch that and I'll immediately like, okay, I gotta watch Tremors now. Just I'll get
Yeah,
into a little
that's
Kevin Bacon kick or something.
yeah, yeah.
Well, number 3 on my list is so I'm a Godzilla fan. So when I saw that this was made in 1994, of course I had to add it, and that is Godzilla versus Space Godzilla.
S Space Godzilla.
Yep, I'm hoping that
Okay.
you get there at some point. This came out during the Heisei era of Godzilla films that started in around the early 90s. And it's not my favorite of the Heisei era. I do enjoy it though. I enjoy all of those films. I don't think there's probably like maybe one from the Heisei era that I was just like, but I enjoy it, and it does kind of lead into the finale of the Heisei era of Godzilla films pretty well, and it shows Godzilla's son. It shows another giant robot named Mogera, and but yeah, it's fun. I enjoy it, but again, I couldn't, in good conscience, not add a Godzilla film to this list if there was. So yeah,
Okay.
Godzilla
Alright.
versus Space Godzilla.
Well, before I get into number 2, I have to adjust my list. I'm gonna throw True Lies, I'm gonna bump that one down. Okay, I know
Okay.
this is 9, but, I brought up another list over here on the side, and I'm seeing other films that I did not see originally. So my number 9 has to go to Blown Away with Tommy
Hmm.
Lee Jones and Jeff Bridges. I like that one. I do have that novelization. I remember that was an intense film. So that replaces True Lies.
I
So
want to say I have that novelization too. I had to go. I got like over 200 here, so I have to go through my whole list. But I'm trying to remember if I've seen that one.
it's good. You should check it out. Tommy Lee Jones is he was the bad dude in that one.
I do like
So,
Tommy Lee Jones, so I'll
yeah,
definitely. I want to say I may have seen it or seen part of it, and I just have to go and uh, check it out now. So,
yeah. So my number 2
hmm.
does not have a novelization, sadly. I tried looking for it, but the second film, it has a sequel, it has a novelization, but my number 2 pick is Speed. I
Speed.
loved that film. Yeah.
Hmm.
Getting trapped on a bus, they have to maintain a certain speed, otherwise they're gonna blow up. You got
Yep.
Keanu Reeves, who's there to try to save the day.
Hmm.
Love that one.
Yep. Definitely got to bring in the Keanu Reeves, especially with all the John Wick movies coming out recently. Number 2 for me is, I feel like if you're a book lover like we are, this is one that definitely you should check out. And it stars Macaulay Culkin, the Page Master.
Okay.
You remember that one?
I never saw it.
Really? Wow. Okay. Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say Richie Rich.
Um, I have seen that one, but compared to these two, Page Master is great. Well, essentially, the Page Master gets is about this young boy. He's kind of easily afraid of everything. He hides in a library to get out of the storm, and
Hmm,
he's actually brought in. It's a mix between live action and animated, but he's transformed into a literary character, and he interacts with the page master, and it stars like Patrick Stewart, Whoopi Goldberg, and I can't remember the actor who plays, but they play um, books essentially. Like there's horror, adventure, and fantasy,
that sounds cool.
and I liked it because it kind of, to me, it kind of represents like when you read a book and you're kind of letting your imagination go wild. It kind of brings some classic stories to life too, like Moby Dick, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, um, Treasure Island. It brings some of those classic stories to life, characters from those stories to life. I liked it. It's a
That's pretty cool.
you and your wife should check this one out. It's a good one.
So, we're down to my number 1.
And we're down to my number one.
It's my number 1 is funny. My number 1 is one that, you talked about first, and that is Dumb and Dumber. Because to me, it's the most memorable one from this time period. It's funny, just like at the end, there's that bus that pulls up, and there's like, "You have to excuse my friend, he's a little slow. The town is that way." It's like, "You
That way.
guys, it's just you coulda got on the bus." They're so stupid, they're so funny. Jeff Daniels did an excellent job playing Harry.
Yeah, we every time I spell salt, I'm just like, throw it over my shoulder, like, who's the dead
Yeah,
man that hit me with the salt shaker? He was just like,
yeah. Like, who doesn't say that when they, like, spill salt? Like, "Don't spill the salt." You throw some over your left shoulder, and then, uh, the other one is like, "You gotta go to the bathroom." He's like, "Just go, man."
oh,
Gotta
that's
get off that
warm.
little this warm.
Or or the yeah, he's like, geez, look on the butt on that. He's like, he must work out.
He must work out, yeah. Like, even like, "Man, my hands are freezing." He's like, "Here, borrow my" I got
Extra
another pair, and he takes
gloves.
them off. He's like, "You mean to tell me you've had another pair of gloves this entire time? I'm gonna kill you."
Or
Such a funny movie.
I think one of my favorite jokes was they accidentally take the wrong turn, and he's like, "Huh, expected the Rocky Mountains to be a little rockier than this." He's like,
Yes.
"Yeah, John
Yeah.
Denver's full of it,
Well,
man." Oh man,
oh
that was
gosh, such a funny one. That's why it's my number 1. It still makes me laugh. It's great. The
yeah.
whole like, even like he's, uh, uh, the date gets ruined because he puts that laxative in Harry's drink,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and so, like, when he's like, Lloyd is driving away, you hear the Wicked Witch of the West song
Mhm.
playing underneath. He's
He's like,
laughing.
"Ah, ha, ha, ha." Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, man, so good.
Yeah, I like the snowball fight scene where Harry and Lloyd, or not Harry and Lloyd, Harry and Mary, and he just like they
Mary.
just like have a innocent, playful little small snowball fight, and he just like gets really into it, and he just like chunks it at her at full speed.
He's, like, getting mad for real. Oh,
That
man,
movie,
it's such a good movie.
yeah, that movie's classic. And for me, my number one, again, one that you've already covered was Forrest Gump.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
it's another quotable film. It's aged very well. The performances are great, and it's just it's I thought like him meeting all of these characters throughout history was just it was done very well. Like he met Elvis, he met
Yeah.
JFK, he met John Lennon from the Beatles, and it was just it's a great film, and it's a nice little love story. It's very tragic too, as you remember what happens in the end, but
Yeah.
that's why, for me, even though my list is not in any particular order, it comes in at number one.
Gotta put that in at number 1. It's a good
That's
film.
right. Well, that is our top nine from 1994, but we do have some honorable mentions. I want to go
Okay.
ahead and get into your honorable mentions.
Well, I had, the Flintstones. was one of my
Mhm.
honorable mentions. We just recently watched that, and I thought there was a lot of funny stuff still in that movie. I remember the glass mugs that McDonald's released and how cool
Mhm.
those were.
Yeah.
There's a thrift store close by here that I saw they had several of those. It's like, man, I want that, but I don't need it.
I remember I enjoyed it. I mean, it remained I like the Hanna-Barbera cartoon, and it remained pretty faithful to the concept of it, and, I thought their performances were pretty good. John Goodman was definitely perfect to play Fred Flintstone,
Yeah,
and,
yeah. The cast was great.
yeah, they had great chemistry and everything.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, Flintstones is a good one. For me, honorable mention of mine, it's a film called Angels in the Outfield. Have you seen that one?
Yep.
I'm a huge baseball fan. I love baseball. That's always been my favorite sport. I played it when I was a kid, and I love the story. It can get very uplifting, but at the same time, it gets very very sad because
Mm.
this kid who can see these angels assisting this team, like his hope for having a happy life with a family is dependent on the angels winning the series, and it gets pretty tragic at times. It's revealed that one of the main characters is dying of cancer, and only the angels and that one kid knows about it, and he can't say anything. It's like, man, that's kind of heavy for a a kid to take on,
Yeah.
um but yeah, it was a good one. I Angels in the Outfield is one of my honorable mentions. So what about you? What's your next one?
Well, I pulled up the list. I'm seeing so many others that I didn't see on my the first browsing through all this stuff, and like there are so many good kids movies that came out back then. And one of them that I missed completely was Ernest Goes to School. Never
Mm,
even knew that one existed. Um, sorry, but Little Giants was my other one. I thought that
Little
was a good,
Giants, yeah.
yeah, that
Hmm.
was a good funny film that uh, I recently purchased for the kids to watch, and they thought it was pretty funny too. So Little Giants, Rick Moranis.
Yeah, that was a good one. I remember that one. Well, this is actually, I think, Disney's first time doing a live action remake of this, and it was The Jungle Book. I think
Mm,
it's labeled Rudyard Kipling's The Jungle Book. I haven't read the original books or stories, but in this one, Mowgli grows up to be a man who still lives in the jungle, and he meets up with some characters from his past, and he's re-civilized, and like it gets pretty deep because he has like some identity issues, like he doesn't feel like he's an animal that lived in the jungle, or he doesn't feel like he fits in with man, and I just remember like some of the it gets pretty intense, like especially with like one of the characters getting eaten by Ka the snake, and that was pretty creepy. And I mean it was def I mean it the 90s special effects, it's noticeable, but I think for the most part it holds up pretty well to this day. But yeah, that's my list.
they're great. A lot of good films from that year.
Yep. But yeah, guys, thanks so much for checking out this video. Um, Again, these were just films that we enjoyed from the year 1994. We definitely interested to see your favorite films from 1994. Be sure to post them down in the comments. And again, this video was inspired by the Rad Pack, who issued this challenge, and I'll be sure to post some links in the description to where you can go find them and check them out. So I always enjoy doing these YouTube challenges. Like I'm kind of glad that there's people out there that kind of do this. It kind of helps inspire other creators to create more content. So I really enjoy it when people people do this. So, but Matthew, thank you so much for joining me on this stream. I know it was kind of last minute. I was like, hey, I'm gonna make this video. You want to join me? And you're like, all right.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. It's always great talking to you, and doing these types of videos are always fun. Doing the lists. I haven't done a YouTube challenge video in a very long time, so you might have opened up a new door for me.
Yeah, and hey, maybe we can maybe on either our personal channels or on Paper Movies, we can kind of come up with our own challenges at some point.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah.
so but yeah, guys, thanks so much for joining us. And again, thanks again to the Rad Pack for inspiring us to make this video and challenging us to make the list. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. Hope there's a new challenge coming soon. So, um, but yeah, again, post your favorite films from 1994 down in the comments below. Stay tuned because me and Matthew will have a new episode of Project Monster Island coming soon. And yeah, be sure to go check him out at his channel, The Geeks Attic. He's kind of filled me in on some changes he's going to be making to the channel and updates. So be sure to stay tuned for those, and I'll let him explain that whenever he's ready to. So, yeah. So, guys, thanks so much. See you next time.